So at this point, we're going to now start writing a report. Hopefully you've put in your test scores successfully. And if you want to come back to the report to log in, you may do so like this. Otherwise, if you're already in the production page, you just have to hit the home button and it will take you to the screen that I'm about to show you. Before I do that, just a shortcut so you don't have to go through the marketing site or the www.insightfill.com site each time. If you grab this URL, you'll be able to go directly to this particular page. So that's something that you might want to do in the future. In the meantime, I'm just going to log in and show you what we're going to do next. So again, you would have set up your user profile in advance and it will carry over to the report. If you ever see the leave page information, don't worry about it. It's just allowing you to stay on the page in case you want to continue working. So if you were finished with entering test scores and went right to the report, it would be at this home page over here, which you can see. I'm going to select a client, but you can also add in a new client if you want. And what we're going to do is we've got the report over here that we're going to be working on. So in this case, what we have here is the client's name and so on that we've already entered. The organization and firm, if you had filled out your user profile, this will fill it in over here. If you have used custom clauses, which we will talk about at a later date, you could add your letterhead at this point. The important thing to now understand is that we're going to fill in the information about testing dates, report date, reason for referral, persons interviewed like mom and dad or teacher or whoever, as well as any documents that were reviewed for the purposes of the report. This is very important for you to select. This tells you the sections that you want to include in your report. So you can see them all over here. If you want to unclick any of them, all you have to do is go like this and they won't occur. What is important is the functional implications or the explanations of the report are put either in each section, each psychological processing section, or they're housed at the end of the report after the summary and before the recommendations as a strengths and needs chart. Let me just demonstrate this for you. So I'm going to take up a completed one and I'm going to show you that the functional implications or the explanation of the trends and how they would operationalize in real life can come within each category. So here you see visual motor and then potential functional implications or the explanation of what this would mean in the real world to the student. It does it each section. Conversely, if you'd like, you can have it shown at the end as you would see over here. So after the summary, it would cut right to the strengths and needs chart. So you can do it that way if you'd prefer. The background and observations would be typical of what you would put in. Again, the custom clauses features are there in case you would like to use your own custom clauses, which is discussed in a later section. What we want to do is explain that any of these boxes that just have squares around them are what we call freeform boxes. That means that it's required for you to type in or fill in the information. Also, you can dictate if you'd like, and I'm going to demonstrate that. If you have a Mac, an operating system like on an iOS device, such as an iPad or a phone, you can talk and it will type right in here. In the cognitive section now, each of the sections is going to be very similar. It will consist of a custom clauses section where you can hold your own repetitive phrasing and favored phrasing that you like. And it will then show your comments, your interpretation of the reports scores as you see them in the back. And we encourage you to use real-world language and refrain from psychobabble. In this case, you can also make the area larger by just pulling on the side and stretching. What I did explain earlier is you can dictate into this box, you can type traditionally, or you can cut and paste and put in information from other reports. Once you fill in the general trends here, those functional implications come as a pick list, and here's what you see as a pick list here. They first come as a strengths chart, and you can pick whatever you like from the strengths chart. The order in which you pick them is the order in which they will show up in the chart. So If you get really used to using these, you'll have your preferred phrasing in the order that you like, and you can just pick them in the order that you like. When you're finished, you press Add Selected Rows to the interview. So anytime of these, you see that when you fill out these things, they always come as strengths first and then as needs. So the weaknesses will come after, and you'll notice that first are the checklists and second are your own. If you want to, now these aren't the cataloged ones, these are the ones where you can just add in something on the fly. So let's say you thought about so let's say you just thought about something, you can just type it in as I just did on the fly. These aren't going to be kept. These are going to be just kept for the purposes of this report and this report only. If you want to keep the custom clauses, then you can create your own, as I mentioned earlier. Now the infrastructure is the same across all the psychological processing areas in the sense that it's always going to be an area that relates to your custom clauses or your own wording, as well as then it gets into your comments, which is your interpretation of the section, followed by the pick list for the strengths of what it would mean in the real world or the functional implications, followed by an add-on where you can just add in something on the fly, followed by the weaknesses pick list, and followed by the weaknesses on the fly that you can add. As I mentioned earlier, you can dictate, you can copy and paste, or you can type in these sections. So you'll notice that the same is going to hold true, the same pattern across all of these areas until you get to the summary and formulation. Again, at the summary and formulation area, there is space for custom clauses that you can add in for yourself, but in the summary and formulation area, this is the free-form text because you're going to have to make some clinical decisions about how you want to provide a summary, an executive summary of the strengths and needs and patterns, as well as any formulation like a diagnosis. So that would go in there. As I mentioned earlier, these also are stretchable in most situations. If they're not stretchable or you're having problems, perhaps try a different browser. Google Chrome, for example, Safari, or maybe some of the others that are more popular. In the recommendations section, you can again see that there's a custom clauses area at the top, and then it goes category over category, general recommendations, personal development, attention, retention, and so on and so forth. But the same kind of pattern occurs no matter where you are in the recommendations section. There is an area where there's going to be a pick list, and again, you pick them in the order that you wish for them to show up. These actually only represent, as in all pick lists, just a very short synopsis. When you select them, the recommendations will be longer actually than what you see here. These are just ways for you to be able to see at a glance what the main idea is. Whenever you pick things, you must add selected rows to interview and not just go to save data. You've got to do this step first. If you don't have anything, let's say you just decided not to put anything in, you must press cancel to escape and go back into this area. You do these all one after the other, and when you're finished, you press save data and exit. Again, just like with the test scores, if you press yes, download now, it will download onto your computer, but it's not going to be in the format that you would require. It's just a backup. It's got data and coding. So you can go back to the home section, and if you pick the name of the person, you now can go to report and you can assemble the report, and you'll notice that every time you assemble the report, you'll lose some of your credits. That's because we're giving you 3 free reports, and so it takes 1 credit to assemble a test score, it takes 1 credit to assemble a report, and what we'll do is we've given you an extra credit in case you've made a mistake along the way. So once you finish all of this and you press assemble, then what's going to happen is this is going to fall into your downloads folder where you can open it up. And if I was to open it up, they would look, depending on which style I've had, they'll look like this. They're fully editable, they're in a Word document, and what you would want to do is save it as the name and in the location where you would normally keep it. Once you're working on it here, as in any Word document, You would save it, and it will only impact this Word document that's on your computer and not any more information that you've done in the cloud, because essentially you've disconnected from the cloud, you've put it onto your computer, and any edits from this point forward will stay only on your computer. Now that's not a bad thing. However, if you've left something out, you can go back. Let's say you want to put in some more recommendations. You can go back and add in the recommendations. But if you've already done work on this section, then what we would recommend is assembling the report with just the recommendations, cutting and pasting them and putting it in this report if you've already done work to edit it. So this is just a very brief overview of how to do an assessment, and remember to keep your language very simple in the interpretation sections. Let us assist you with the functional implications, and try to streamline your report so that the order in which the information is presented is clean and non-repetitive.